an attorney. I'm not an accountant. And I want everybody to do their due diligence and feel comfortable before they either transfer their account to us for self-direction or before they do any investments. Right? We don't offer any investment advice, and we don't offer any investments or sell them. So we do want everybody to feel comfortable with it, and that'll be one of the things we talk about as we go through the presentation. Zach, I'm trying to advance the screen. Have you changed over control to me?
I have. Go ahead and give it a shot. If you click, is it not advancing the slide?
It is not.
Okay. Let me just
as I go into that.
Sorry guys, there's always some technical difficulties with this type of stuff. Give me 1 second, and let's see. Okay, give it a try now, Carl.
I've been made the presenter. Show my screen. I think I should do that.
Yep.
Close X.
You know what, Carl?
Are you showing my presentation now or not?
Yeah, if you have your presentation handy, you could bring it up on your screen because we are now looking at your screen. If you don't, I could take back over control and simply work the slides for you, whatever's easiest.
Yeah, if you can work the slides for me, then that would be great. That's what I wanted done earlier today to make sure I had that there just in case, but that'll work.
Carl, if you don't mind me interrupting, if you click there, you can pull it up on your screen from your email from earlier today, and you can click.
And why don't we do this, Carl? Can you see, or can you see the agenda?
I can, yes.
Okay. I'm going to just go ahead and take control for you, and I'm going to follow along with you very intently, so I don't think there'll be an issue with me getting you to the next slide. If I hesitate, just tell me to click the mouse, and I'll get you to the next slide.
Yeah, we'll do that. Sorry for the confusion.
Not a problem.
Yeah, what I'm going to tell you today, most Americans have no clue about this, and it's even going to sound too good to be true, but everything that's going to be told to you tonight is in an IRS publication, and I'll give you that sheet that tells you the few publications that it's in. So everybody that's out there listening, I want you to pay attention to what I'm doing. We'll make sure you have information from our website as well, and you can verify everything that we say with your own financial advisors or accountants, whoever you'd like to do that with. And we're going to go right through what's up on the agenda screen today, starting with what is a self-directed IRA, and then we'll end up going through all the steps if you're going to buy real estate in your IRA, how to do it. And then we'll end up talking about a presentation in November live at Harrisburg with Zach and PA Deals. So most people ask me, what is a self-directed IRA? And you'll be able to read what the attorneys say it is. But let's make it real simple for everybody. Self-directed IRA is an IRA that you can invest in anything that you want, except for a couple small things that the IRS disallows or prohibits. All the rules are exactly the same, such as your contributions and your distributions. All the penalties are the same. The age that you can take it out is the same. All of those things are there, but you get to invest in anything that you want to. Your statement may look a little bit different because most people look at their IRAs or their 401ks and they see stocks or bonds or mutual funds. The majority of people are in those types of investments. Now, if you do a self-directed IRA and you're good and knowledgeable in real estate, you may see that you own a single-family home, on Main Street, or you own an apartment building, on Willow Street in USA, anywhere. So all of those things are possible in a self-directed IRA. Again, we don't sell any of those things, so you find your own investment and you use your own knowledge, your own expertise, and you take control of your financial future with this vehicle.
And that's exactly for everyone on the call, real quick, Carl, for everyone on the call who may be a real estate investor or who may be a client of PA Deals, I wanted to have this presentation done this evening because as a provider of real estate, we have clients that are looking for alternative ways to fund their transactions, and most of the people I encounter have no idea that their IRA or 401k plan can become a funding source for them to acquire real estate. So I think that's an important point to make.
No, it definitely is. And I mean, when Mitt Romney, released his tax returns, the Wall Street Journal reported he could have $100 million in his IRA, right? So, and everybody, you said, well, what did he invest in? And, the smart and wealthy people use these tax advantage plans to do that. I mean, I can give you a lot of examples. I mean, I could take this presentation and we could be here till next week. That's how passionate I am about it. And basically, I learned about these things in 1993 when my dad died, and I had to borrow some money. And it took me a year and a half to pull the trigger, but I loved the way that this worked. So let's talk about what people can invest in, right? We're going to talk primarily about real estate tonight, but you can invest in gold and silver and palladium, some other precious metals that are out there. A lot of people don't want to own real estate because they don't want the headaches of property management, et cetera. With PA Deals, I don't think that's a big deal because you'll do everything for them, Zach, from looking at your slides and talking to you. But other people might just want to lend money and have a fixed rate of return, and a check every month into their IRA, and don't want the headaches of real estate. So they'll do a note or a mortgage, et cetera. Other people will invest in private businesses in town. Somebody might have an auto electric shop in town, or a lawnmower shop, or something of a business there, and they might want to sell some of the shares in it, and your IRA can do that. And then there's a host of a lot of other things. People invest in banks or tax liens, and we can get into some of those. But this is what the majority of our clients invest in, are these 5 categories. As an example, this is some of the types of real estate that you have there. The one thing I'll point out on this slide, because I think everything's self-explanatory, is that you can have foreign properties. Now, you can't have foreign property in lands that aren't on good standing with the United States, which are listed in there, such as Cuba and Iran, and North Korea, things like that. Mortgages, you can buy mortgages. You can put up new promissory notes for someone that's buying a house, as an example. You can be the mini bank and own the first mortgage on it. You can use trustees, which is the same as mortgages in other states. You can buy discounted notes from banks, and then try to make them performing or non-performing. So there's a whole multitude of other investments that you can talk about out there with notes. These are some of the private placements that we talked about, and we can get, you can go to our website for more details on here, because I really want to spend our time on real estate tonight. And then this is the small list that I told you the IRS doesn't let you invest in. Right? Remember, I explained what the self-directed IRA was. You get to invest in everything except what's on this slide, which is collectibles and life insurance, art, antiques, gems, coins, alcoholic beverage. So that's it. That's the small list. Let's talk about now what type of plans can do this, right? Because we talked about IRAs in the beginning. You have traditional IRAs, you have spousal IRAs, you have SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, which are both business IRAs, and you have defined benefit plans and defined contribution plans. These are all on the tax-deferred side. meaning you get a break on paying your taxes when you make a deduction in here if you meet certain income guidelines. On the tax-free side, you have the Roth IRA, the health savings account, the educational savings account, and the Roth like 401k. Every single one of these accounts can invest in real estate or any of those other items that I talked about. You just need an administrator that will hold them for that. Now, the only reason the administrator has to hold your assets is because the U.S. government made a rule, Section 408 of the IRS code, that says a bank or someone authorized by the IRS are the only ones who can hold these tax-deferred or tax-free plans. Merrill Lynch, Smith Barney will let you have a self-directed account with any of these things, but don't be confused. When they let you self-direct it, they'll let you self-direct it into anything that they sell. And remember, Camera Plan doesn't sell anything. We let you pick what you're going to do, and we do the administration of it. Could Merrill Lynch, Smith Barney, Fidelity, and Vanguard do this if they wanted? Yes, they could. They choose not to because it's a little bit more cumbersome than doing stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or CDs. We have a lot of people that are looking at these accounts now, getting into their 50s, late 40s, early 50s, and they're seeing that it's not growing the way that they want it to, especially if they're putting it in CDs that are getting, 1 or less, somewhere between 0.5% and 1.5%. So our business has picked up in the last year, again, I think because of the other investments that people are able to go to, right? People are definitely afraid of the stock market except for a few that are good at it, and you're not making any returns in the CDs. So if we can get the next slide, I'd appreciate it.
Real quick, just to clarify this, what you're saying is for everyone on the call right now, if they have a traditional IRA, they have a Roth IRA, if they have a health savings account, if they have an ESA, if they have any of these things on this slide, they can stop being forced to invest that in the traditional way, which is via the stock market or mutual funds, and they can begin buying real estate with these types of plans. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. I appreciate you reiterating and being so succinct, Zach. That's exactly right. And not only that, they can put a couple of these things together and buy a house if they don't have enough money in one or two of them.
That's a great point. What I don't see on here, Carl, is a traditional 401k plan. Is that excluded from this list?
No, you can do a traditional 401k plan, and it really falls under the defined contribution plan under on the bottom there, because that's what a 401k is. 401k is able to do it. One of the things I do want to say is if you're still working with the employer, they may have to give you permission to be able to self-direct it in other assets. If you have an old one where you've severed your relationship with them, in 99% of those cases, it's easy to roll it over and turn it into an IRA.
Great.
So yeah, don't let that worry about you. And I mean, you might hear me talk about the Roth IRA because I'm a big proponent of it. I think it's great, and I like tax-free versus tax-deferred. But you do have to pay your taxes up front, but then everything you earn is tax-free.
Okay.
And if you're going to earn high interest rates, to me, that's the best way to do it. Or
definitely. Just this slide alone, though, I think should be so eye-opening to everyone on the call, because when I discovered this, and I discovered this about a decade ago, that people could convert their traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, or 401k plans and self-direct them. And we got started by actually raising private money to buy real estate with and helping people convert these into self-directed plans. But for everyone on the call, I mean, please understand, if you have an IRA, you can stop investing in traditional investments and begin acquiring things like Carl's talking about, real estate, become a private lender for a company like ours, or the other varieties of investments that he talked about. So good stuff.
Yes, thanks, Zach. This is just kind of a chart, and any financial planner can talk to you about this. And basically what I'm comparing here is a tax-free account, a tax-deferred account, and then almost a savings account or taxable account. And what it goes to show is, you know, if we look at the example at the end of 40 years, I think this is $50,000 to start with. If you made the same return, and I think this puts a 10% return on it as well. If you didn't have to pay the taxes on it, you'd have $2 million, which is in your Roth account. If you had paid the taxes in a tax-deferred account at today's rate of 35%, you'd end up with $1.5 million. And if you were going along paying the taxes every year and they stayed at the same rate it is now, you'd have $750,000. So the point is, to get wealthy, you really need to use these tax-free and tax-deferred accounts, because taxes eat up, and I've got another chart to show that, but I just tried to show this a couple different ways because, you know, as you know, I went to an Ivy League school and I launched rockets for, 20 years, 18 years, and nobody taught me this. I had to learn it on my own, the difference between tax-free, tax-deferred, and taxable accounts. And by far, this is one of the things that made me more wealthy than anything else that I've done. So I believe in these things. I grew up around real estate, so it was a natural fit for me when I found it out. I tried to do good in the stock market, and I read all the books on it, but I read a book on blackjack, and I do better in Atlantic City, both on blackjack than I do in the stock market. If we can, the next slide. All right. Why do you want tax advantage plans and self-direction? Right? Everybody's out there, we talked about the money part of it, but even more than that, you want to invest in what you understand and can control. Right? It's you personally. If you're not one of those people and you don't trust yourself, this probably isn't for you. You want to use your expertise and knowledge, right? Not rely on somebody else. It's the only way to truly diversify your portfolio. All right? And you have reduced restrictions when you're in a self-directed account because there's a lot more things that are open to you. Right? Nothing bothers me more than when I was in the stock market and somebody said, oh, they had a freeze in Colombia and coffee's going to go through the roof, or they killed bin Laden, therefore the stocks go down because they think there's going to be a big uprising, or they caught, somebody else out there. Things that, they rioted in Greece and it affected my retirement plan. Everybody was scared to death of these things that everybody else had control over what their retirement was going to be. So a lot of people feel the anxiety of getting out of things they can't control and into things they can better, right? And you can use your common sense, right, when you're doing these investments. You don't have to rely on formulas and all kinds of programs out there. You can basically use your common sense and invest in what you want. And the majority of it, what I looked at was, in real estate, I was pretty much making in excess of 15% when you did it. On my other investments, I was making less. But again, I grew up around real estate. I knew it. I was comfortable with it. So I just felt I was making much better returns in real estate than I was in a lot of other investments. The other one that people find really satisfying is they have tangible assets, right? They have hard assets that aren't going to disappear overnight, can't be written down overnight or over a weekend. I remember when Wachovia stock was $35 on Friday and 30 cents on Monday. With real estate or even precious metals, stuff like that, it's not going to disappear. You're going to be able to drive by it. It's a little bit harder for some Wall Street guys to say, hey, I don't know where it went. I don't know how it got overseas. You know your house or your apartment building or your office building. is right there at the address where it was when you first saw it. I haven't seen anybody have that problem yet unless it's been bulldozed down or something like that. So that's a lot of the tangible and intangible benefits of using these plans and having self-direction. Hope everybody can understand that. I love this quote because this came from a very wealthy gentleman that was a client of ours, right? And he says, investing in what you know and understand and control versus using hope as your strategy. He says that's basically how he made his money. 80 to 85% of the people in the United States put money into their 401k plan or their IRA plan with their financial advisor, and they hope when they retire that he's made them money. And if you're going to do that, just talk to the majority of people that are at retirement age now and ask them how it worked for them. Right? We have more people on food stamps than we've ever had in the United States at this point. You know, a lot of those are seniors. Social Security and Medicare is more important to people now than it's ever been, keeping them a lifeline on there. So again, I'm hoping you're not using hope as your strategy. That's one thing I'd like for you to take away from tonight's meeting. If real estate isn't your best pick, or if self-direction isn't it, find something that'll work for you. But get a strategy for it. This is an example, again, that many people don't understand. Let's just say that, and these types of money, and I broke them down into the 4 categories, the W-2, the passive, tax-deferred, and tax-free money. And let's just assume you made $100,000 in each one of these categories. Well, as soon as you do that in your W-2, and by the way, people with jobs spend the majority of time trying to get raises at that job and making their money at that job. And this chart is going to tell you why that's probably the worst place to spend your money. If you make $100,000, you're going to pay the federal tax on that, the state tax on that, your local tax, Social Security, and Medicare. If you're your own boss and you do that, you're going to be paying, 15% for the Social Security and Medicare alone. And ultimately, it's up around 40%, plus or minus, depending on the people listening here, if you have a job and you look at that. I just, as soon as you get that raise, and I mean, nobody in the federal government has come in and helped me get a raise when I used to work at the Space Center. Not the governor or any of the state representatives came in with me when I went to get a raise. No local people, no Social Security, Medicare. But as soon as I got that raise, they took that money from me. And the more raise I got, the more money they took. So it was obvious to me that the W-2 money, you're working for 4 or 5 people right there that are living off of your check. So it was obvious that I like to go to the passive account because on my rent in my properties that I owned, I didn't have to pay Social Security or Medicare, so right there was a 15% increase that I didn't have when I was getting a W-2 check, right? Interest, dividends are there. Capital gains was 20%, 25%, and now 15%, so that's changed throughout my lifetime. But let's just say you made that $100,000 in the passive rent area, then you're going to be about $75,000. You save 15%, which is better than the W-2, right? Now, if you made that $100,000 in an IRA doing exactly one of these other things here, you'd be able to keep that in the tax-deferred account until you turn 70 and a half. But as soon as you turn 70 and a half, the Fed, the state, and the local are going to, depending on what states you live in and what localities you live in, they're going to take their share of that money again. That's why I'm a big proponent of the tax-free Roth, HSAs, and ESAs. You make $100,000 in that account, you get to keep $100,000, and it doesn't matter, when you take it out. You're not forced to take it out at 70 and a half. So if you really are doing well in your other investments as well, then you can leave that money in those accounts for your kids or grandkids to take that money out again tax-free. So I just want people to understand that these are the 4 types of money, and most people spend all their time up in the W-2. Don't pile it on in those top three categories. Try to go from forever taxed to never taxed in the tax-free account. And that time and energy you're spending trying to get a raise, think of looking at investments in your tax-free Roth or health savings account or an educational savings account, because I think in the long run that's going to make you wealthier a lot quicker, if you remember the couple of the charts before here that showed you that. This was key to me, understanding finances and building wealth. Okay, let's talk about IRAs lending money, because there's people out there that like to lend money. And I guess the other thing we should do is, anybody has any questions here, can they put it in the chat box?
If anyone
here,
on the
Zach,
call
and
has
forward any questions?
Yep, in the chat box to the right of your screen, if anyone has any questions, just type them in there. We have Ryan Calhoun on the call as well to field those questions and to feed them to Carl and myself. So if you guys are on the line, I know it's a lot of information. If you're on the line and you're getting confused or you have some specific questions, just type them into the box on the right, and we will answer them as they come in.
Yeah, and you know, we'll stay here till 8:30. You know, I'm giving you a lot of information for you to digest. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Let's talk about IRAs. You know, can lend money. How do you do it? Right? You find a borrower. Is that hard to find today, Zach, a borrower?
Well, I am the borrower, so if there's anyone on the call that would like to loan money to an organization that does 100 real estate transactions a year, has bought and sold over 1,000 pieces of property, and is well capitalized, then we would be a great borrower for you to pick.
Yeah, and I don't think you're the only one out there either. With the way banks are making everybody jump through hoops, there's a lot of people that are looking to borrow money.
There's a lot of demand out there for private lending,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. So, and basically what happens is a note is drawn up, you know, with the agreed upon terms. You know, they can be either, you know, long-term or short-term. The interest rate is negotiated by you and the borrower. You come up with a payment schedule. You come up with how it's secured, and we do all of those types of parameters in your note. But again, you're in control of it, and you sit down across the table with the borrower if your IRA is going to lend money. Right? And when the borrower pays you back, the money goes into your IRA. Of course, you pay no taxes on it at that point in time. It's all either tax-free if it's in the Roth like we talked about, or tax-deferred if it's in a traditional or a 401k or SEP or Simple.
And guys, for everyone on the call, just so you know, and I'm very familiar with this, I made a name for myself locally helping others do this and went on to raise over $12 million worth of private capital. But this is a way, if you've got $50,000 in an IRA, $100,000 in a 401k, if you want to make, if you pick the right borrower, loan money on the right properties, and structure this correctly, you can easily and safely earn 6, 8, 9, 10% interest-only payments on your money year in and year out. And if you do it the right way, you can securitize this with assets that if I borrowed money from somebody, I would securitize it with an asset that was worth at least 20% more than the loan I was taking in. So if I borrowed $80,000, I would securitize that $80,000 with a piece of property worth at least $100,000. So this is a very, very lucrative way to become you're basically becoming the bank for a real estate investor. You're letting the real estate investor make his profit, but you're deriving a very respectable return on your money and your capital in a safe environment.
I mean, if you look at the reverse of that, the banks take your money, they pay you, you know, 1/10% or 0.5% today, and then they lend it out, right, at whatever rate they do, but you're still getting 0.5%. It's still your money, so you're just basically bypassing the middleman and lending it to people that you do. And if you look at it, I think individuals in America will make better loans than the banks have done in the past, right? Because they were loaning 100, 125% of what the value of the property was, and we all saw what happened as a result of that.
And if there is anyone on the call, Carl and Kama are the company that can help you guys. We're talking about doing this, and you know, Kama's a company, and Carl's the founder of Kama. Kama's a company that can help you make all of this possible. They can act as the company that takes your IRA from being invested in the market to helping you become a private lender, loaning money, or buying real estate. And I'm here to tell you, PA Deals is definitely a possible borrower for you. If you're out there and saying, yeah, I may be interested in loaning money, we borrow private capital from individuals every day of our lives, and we pay respectable returns. We're not paying, you know, super high rates of return, but we're a very safe bet. We're very well established, and if anyone wants any information on how any of that could work with me, you can always find us at padeals.com or call me directly.
Zach, we do have a question.
Okay.
I believe the question is that they assume that the self-directed Roth IRA is limited to $5,000 limit based on your AGI. And I'm basing that, I believe they're asking about a contribution annually.
Yeah, an annual contribution is $5,000 unless you're lucky enough to be over 50, and then it's $6,000. But you can convert, you know, 401ks, you can convert simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, old 401ks into Roth IRAs if you so choose. In that instance, you will pay the taxes if you do convert. But even if your adjusted gross income is above the limits, they made loopholes so that everybody can do it and can invest in or can have a Roth. They opened up some ways to do that in 2010. So if you're a high net worth individual and and you think you make too much money to have a Roth IRA, don't believe it anymore. And you know, check out the Kama Plan website, and we'll help you get over that basically through a conversion.
And I think a lot of people.
Yeah, the answer is for a Roth IRA, you can put in $5,000 or $6,000. The Roth portion of a 401k, which works very similar to that, you can put up to $17,500 in it this year. So you can have either one of those Roth components. All right, let's talk about prohibited transactions, right? There's two ways that does. We talked about what you couldn't invest in, but the other prohibited transaction comes into who you do business with or who your IRA does business with. As an example, you can't lend money to yourself. You can't lend money to your LLC. You can't lend money to your mom and dad. You can't lend money to your partners in a business. You can't lend money to your kids or their wives or your grandkids, any lineal ascendants or descendants. Your IRA can't sell or exchange or even lease property to them. So if your IRA bought a house from PA Deals, for example, and then you wanted to rent it to your children or to your parents, they would be prohibited, and that couldn't be done. You can't lend money or extend credit to any of those people we talked about. And none of those people, even if your son is a contractor, can he come in and you pay him or your IRA pay him to fix up the property. So there are a couple of things that you do have to pay attention, right? No self-dealing and no personal use. So if you bought a house, don't plan on using it down the shore or, you know, in some exotic island if your IRA bought it. That's not allowed. No personal use for that. This chart here just goes in, it'll bore the living daylights out of you. You can look in section 4975 of the code, and it just goes into other disqualified people. You know, there's different entities that are out there that this talks about. Change the slide, please. Yeah.
We had a couple questions. If you're okay, I'll ask them here quickly.
No problem.
First question was, rolling a 401k into a self-directed Roth, you would have to pay the tax on that rollover, correct?
Rolling it into a Roth IRA, yes, if you're taking a tax-deferred account that you've never paid tax on, and you roll it into a tax-free account of the Roth, you'll pay the tax based on your income for that year. So if you did that today, you'd owe tax on it April 15th.
Okay, next question was...
There are no penalties for that, but sooner or later you're going to pay the tax on that money. But yeah, if you convert to a Roth, you're there. If you convert to a traditional IRA and buy a house with it, no, you won't pay any taxes, you won't pay any penalties, you won't pay any transfer fees.
Next question was, I am retired and have money in annuities. Can all annuities be rolled over into a self-directed IRA?
It depends on how old the annuities are, and the answer is no, not all can, and sometimes you might have to pay a surrender fee with that annuity. But basically the question to ask the person that has the annuity is, can I roll this over into an IRA and buy something else besides the annuity? And if I do, how much will it cost me, or what's the surrender value?
Okay, that's it for right now.
Helps. If you have any other problems, just go to our website, camaplan.com, or call us tomorrow, or shoot us an email, and we'll start a dialogue with you. And we also have a live chat on there if you call us between 8:30 and 5.
Okay, that's it for right now.
Great, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. All right, one of the easiest ways that I try to tell people when they're asking me if it's a prohibited transaction is I actually ask them, are you getting a benefit from what your IRA is doing today? If it is, it's probably prohibited. As an example, if you're a realtor and you sell a piece of property to your IRA, you're not allowed to take a commission on that. If your IRA buys a piece of property and you're a painter, you cannot go in there and paint the property and increase its value. Those are no. You can pay a painter to do it, but you personally cannot do that. And obviously you can't stay in it. Everything has to be paid from the IRA on that property, and all the profits from the IRA have to go back into the property. So you do not get a benefit from it yourself personally. Okay. Inside IRA or outside, right? People always ask me, on these charts here, as an example. This is one that we took from one of the cases here somebody asked me about. They bought a piece of property for $105,000. Both owners are 60 years old. The net rental income for both properties is $7,300. But on the IRA side, there's no depreciation, right? The income tax is zero. The owner gets to use $732 or $7,300 that year. He can take it out, he puts it in his pocket, and he gets $7,300. In the other case here, he makes $7,300. He gets a $3,000 depreciation. He picked an income tax of 30% on the other $4,000, so he pays $1,200 or $1,300 in taxes. The owner gets to use $6,000. This is kind of what I talk to people about. This is going from forever taxed to never taxed, right? You know what your tax rate is today. You don't know what it's going to be in the future. Is that a risk? Yes, it is. In my lifetime, I don't see the taxes coming down much. I don't care what Mitt Romney says, and I'm hoping I'm in the 1% that Barack Obama wants to pay more taxes as time goes on. But I don't see the taxes going down with the way the government's spending, and I feel that even if I paid the top rate today, which is 35%, I sure don't want to be in the same category as Kennedy when the taxes were up at 70% or 90% when he took office, and he brought them down to 70%. So I think we're at a low tax rate now. I think that people should look at converting, some or all of their money to some tax-free advantages. But in this case, don't worry about depreciation because that's the same thing the Wall Street Journal guy said about Mitt Romney's IRA. Well, if he'd done these things outside his IRA, he would have been paying capital gains tax. All you really want to look at when you're investing in your IRA or your 401k is what's the total return on the money, okay? And is that the best use of that money? It doesn't matter what it is because no matter what you invest in a traditional account, it's going to be taxed. If it's in a Roth account, you still want the return. And in this case, you can see even though you get depreciation, you still have a better deal in the tax-free account. All right, I think I spent enough time on that. This is the same exact case, but if you had $1 million value and it goes up to $100,000 of income, you get to keep $100,000. I mean, and as an example, right? I mean, I'm 58 years old. Another year and a half, I've got a building that's owned by my Roth. I'm going to take a year's worth of rent out of it, and I'm going to put it in my pocket, and I'm going to fill it out on the tax return, and I'm going to have that total year's rent, without paying any income tax on it. And if there's other people that are out there as they get older, they understand that your depreciation goes down and your deductions go down, rents go up, and you're paying more and more taxes as time goes on. So in this case, the people get 26% more using the money in their IRA, and they can take it out at the same time. And let's just even say that they did this 60 years, and we can take this same example and multiply it out by 30 years and say the guy lived until he was 90 years old. And let's just say everything stayed at the same value and nothing even increased. His children can then get that $100,000 per year tax-free for their lifetime and maybe even their grandkids' lifetime. So you can take years and years of this, but if they wanted the full amount, they could sell the property, get the $1 million, and again, take it out tax-free. On the other side, they're going to have to pay the difference in the basis on the $1 million when they got it, or they'd have to pay it in the estate tax, if it was outside the IRA. The other thing that I really like about the IRAs is you have built-in asset protection when money's in an IRA or assets are in the IRA. That's hard for people to take. If you get in a car accident or you're sued for something when you're outside the IRA, they normally take your cash or they take your other assets. So I believe using the IRAs and 401ks as asset protection. Next chart. All right, let's talk a little bit about what CAMA does. Zach touched on it a little bit, but from the beginning, the IRS requires you to use a third party, right? That's just the law. There's nothing you can do about it at this point in time. We're a neutral third party. We do not give any investment advice, nor do we sell any products. We're different from Vanguard and Smith Barney, et cetera, because we don't have that, and their self-directed accounts are in things that they sell. We specialize in doing the paperwork for that, right? We keep the records of all the transactions and report to the IRS when you make contributions, when you take distributions, the 5498s and the 1099s, et cetera. And the other thing that we want to do, right, a lot of people say, well, I can drop my advisor, et cetera. We don't give you that advice. We don't tell you how you should mix or diversify your portfolio. We're not advocating that you get rid of your financial advisors or your accountant. All we're saying is include us in as part of the team so that you do have more choices and you can use your expertise and your knowledge and your control. Next slide.
I will say one thing real quick, Carl. Believe it or not, in my experiences, even the most savvy financial planners don't understand what we're talking about this evening. This has been around for a long time, but it is still very, very unknown to most financial advisors and or planners. And you may face a lot of resistance for everyone on the call tonight. You may face a lot of resistance if you try to do this, because a financial advisor or planner typically is not going to make a commission if you begin buying real estate or become a private lender within your IRA, because they lose the account. So just be very careful. I just had a client transfer over $100,000 from a brokerage account into CAMA. Just happened last week, Carl. I'm sure you're familiar with the situation. And I'm telling you, the stockbroker was the worst person imaginable to deal with because they were losing the account. But my client can earn a lot higher return investing with us in real estate than they ever did using that financial advisor. So just be prepared.
Well, I mean, and we run into that a lot, but there are some fee-based advisors that are out there. But let's face it, if somebody's commission-based, no matter how much they love you, they love themselves and their family more. They've got to take care of themselves. So if they need to make money, they're going to make money for themselves first and you second. But not to, there's a lot of them out there that say, hey, yeah, I want the best for my client. And some people are actually good in the stock market and have been doing it. And we see a lot of times husband and wives have different thoughts on it. So they'll take some of it out and try it in real estate or notes or some other alternative investment. I mean, obviously we've been seeing that a lot. I mean, because you know, I mean, gold's probably been one of the best investments for the last decade. So there are a lot of people that think about that. But the bottom line is, when you talk to these guys, you will get some resistance because you're cutting into their livelihood, and they're going to talk to you. You know, and I'll tell you what they're going to say. You know, the first thing they're going to say is that it's very risky. And if it's very risky, you know, the thing is, what's risky? Putting your money with us is not risky because your cash sits in an FDIC insured account, and you're picking the investment. So the risk comes down to whether it's your investment, right? How much riskier is that house on the street versus a stock? And most people that work in real estate feel that the real estate is a lot less risky. Not that real estate doesn't have risk. I do not want anybody to assume that. But at least you have a lot more control over it than you do a stock, unless you're, you know, on the chairman of the board or something. The other thing they're going to do is they're going to tell you that it's not legal. If they tell you that it's not legal, you need to walk away. You don't want them doing anything because they're either lying to you or they really don't look or read in anything in their own industry. There are more books out in this field. There's at least one article a week, you know, coming from Wall Street on this subject, and Bloomberg or CNN, that they're talking about it. There's authors that are out there. We've got, you know, on our site, we've got books that you can read on this. So for the last 10 years, there's been more books and articles, things written on self-directed IRAs. Just Google Mitt Romney's IRA, you're going to see all kinds of things come up with it. So if they say it's not legal with all the press that it's got, they're just not there. The next thing they're going to say, oh, it's really complicated. You know, it takes a rocket scientist to get through it. Well, let me tell you this. I mean, I am a rocket scientist, but it doesn't take me to get through it. You look at it, go to our website, we show you exactly how it works. You can do it with as little or as much money as you want. You can test it out, and you can kind of see the whole process. But that's the three things that advisors are going to push back on you with. And we don't mind having conference calls with your advisors and answering the questions with them and helping them, you know, especially your accountant, because one of the things we didn't touch, and I don't know if we're going to get to it tonight, but if you don't have enough money in your IRA can actually borrow money from a bank to buy a piece of property and leverage that property with a loan to the IRA, which is non-recourse, doesn't show up on your credit, and is strictly to the IRA. And if you default on it for some reason, you'll lose your money, but there'll be no deficiency judgment because that's how the loans are written. And if you, you know, there's more information again on our website on those things. I mean, that'd take another, you know, 20 minutes to go through and discuss tonight. So I just want people to know that, you know, we've got your questions answered. If we don't answer your questions to your satisfaction, I'm telling you right now, don't do it. Because one of the benefits of working with CAMA is you feel 100% comfortable with your investments and with us as a company. We don't want anybody that doesn't feel that way. Keep your money where it is until you're ready and you're comfortable with what we're doing. We don't charge you anything to keep your cash at our account. We're the only company that's out there that doesn't do that. And the main reason we do that is we don't want you rushing into an investment. We tell you to open up your account, do your due diligence, and when you're ready to pull the trigger, everything is set up, and you don't have to be worrying about filling out the forms and transferring the money when you're trying to do a deal at the same time. And a lot of people love that about us.
I can say one thing. There's a gentleman on the call tonight, John, and he raised his hand here in our little software GoToWebinar thing. So, John, if you have a question, type it in the box to the right, because I know you always have great questions. So if you do, if that's a mistake, no problem. But if you do have a question, just type it in the box, and we'll make sure to answer it. Sorry, Carl.
No problem. This is for the people that are on the call tonight. I appreciate them coming and listening. And you know, you're not out there watching Big Brother or Paradise Island or something like that, because this stuff is boring. I'll tell you that right now. But it's one of the things that you know, it's probably the most important thing in my life for building wealth. I don't know anything better, and I kind of fell into it, you know, right after my dad died because it was just serendipity, and that was 2 decades ago. I'm a lot older than you are, Zach. It was kind of scary when you said you got into it in '99, and I'm thinking I got into real estate in '77.
I wasn't born in '77. No, I'm just.
Stop it.
All right.
Stop it.
Why don't you tell them a little bit about how this all works? And guys, everyone tonight, this is a high-level overview of this process. I can tell you from firsthand experience, I called Carl's office 6 times yesterday. When you call them during business hours, they answer the phone. They will answer your question. If the person that answers the phone can't answer your question, they'll put you on hold and find somebody who will. I have had nothing but stellar service from CAMA. We have clients using them actively right now to buy real estate from us with. We have clients using them to loan us money. They're a great company, but this is a very high-level overview of the program. I know you'll have tons of questions, and I'm here to tell you CAMA is there to answer all of them tomorrow, later in the week, next week. But why don't you tell them a little bit about this slide and how it all works?
Yeah, and just one thing like that. We don't care if you call 6. We actually had one lady that called us 27 times in one day. And all I said to her is, we'll never laugh at you while you're on the phone. But as soon as she hung up, we go, man, this girl's really nervous. So don't worry about it. We're there to answer every one of your questions. And again, we don't want to work with you unless you're happy with our service. So that is our key to our clients, and we guarantee that. But the first thing you do is you open up an account. It's just like opening up a bank account or an account with anybody else, Smith, Barney, Merrill Lynch, Fidelity, Vanguard, right? The next thing is you fund your account. How do you do that? As one person's asked the question on there, you can make a contribution to it. The other way you can do it is you can transfer all or part of your money from another IRA or from a 401k. The other part of it is after you have your money in there, right, we charge $50 because I know there's people thinking about the fees. We charge $50 for that. Most other custodians are going to hit you up with an annual fee. We don't charge any annual fee until you buy something, okay? So the next step is you've opened up your account, your money's there, you found an investment to buy. you're going to fill out the paperwork with that investment. If we're talking about a piece of real estate and you're using PA deals, you can go over there and you can see the paperwork that Zach has. You'll fill that paperwork out. Now, instead of having it in your name, you're going to have it in your IRA's name. So it's going to say on the buyer of that property, it's going to say CAMA plan for the benefit of Joe Buyer, IRA, number 12345. Right? So that's right. You're going to fill out that purchase directive, and you're going to take the PA paperwork that's there. After you read it and agree to it, you're going to sign it as read and approved, and you're going to send that in to us, right? Either fax it, scan it, and email it, snail mail it to us, whatever it takes, and we're going to sign it, and that's going to be your contract going forward. You're going to go through the process of appraisals, inspections, whatever else you want to do, rehab or punch list, it doesn't matter. Whatever those things that you'd normally do, you're going to do again just for your IRA. Everything will be in your IRA's name, right? The sales agreement, the insurance, if it burns down, it's going to go to your IRA. If it's title insurance, any of that stuff will be in the name of your IRA. Once you're happy with all those documents, you'll sign it, send it over to us for the final signing. We'll do that to the title company, and we'll wire the money to the title company. They'll record the documents. After the documents are recorded, they'll be returned to CAMA Plan. You'll get a copy of them either from the title company, or we'll make you one and email it to you. And you'll be able to go online 24/7, 365 days a year, look at your statement, and where it used to say cash, it's now going to say, right, it may still have some more cash in there, but it's going to say, you know, PA deal, single family home, 123 Main Street, Harrisburg, PA. And that's your asset, just like it used to have mutual fund there. It's pretty simple. We've been doing it for a long time. We understand that people have a little bit of anxiety going through the process one time, but again, I told you, we're here to make it easy for you, and we'll work with you every step of the way. We've worked with just about all the title companies out there. Every once in a while we run into one that has a problem, but the majority of them already know us, and everything is set up. A lot of realtors are, you know, we teach continuing education to attorneys, to realtors, to accountants, and to financial advisors. So there is more and more that are becoming familiar with this and understand it. But, you know, again, I think it's a pretty simple process to walk through these steps. And again, you have complete control. If you want to pull the trigger and say, hey, I'm not doing this deal, the money comes back from the title company or from the real estate company and goes back into your account.
Just a few questions, Carl, if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Question is, do you have a list of banks willing to lend to an IRA? So I guess non-recourse lenders.
Yes, we do. We give that out to all of our clients. I mean, I can give you one tonight if you want it. Go to NASB.com, go to Google IRAlending.com, and you'll see a bunch of them pop up. But we have a lot of relationships with some of the best ones that are there. We're always looking to build new ones. If you're working with a bank in your area and they're good and they like you and you would like them to lend to your IRA, we'll be glad to talk to them and see if they want to do it. There's a book out there by Matt Allen. I think it's called Leverage Your IRA. Matt Allen is M-A-T-T-A-L-L-E-N. You can look him up. You know, he's got a whole book on the subject. But you can call us. I just don't like to give out our list of lenders, you know, unless it's to clients, because then it takes up the time and energy of the banks for people that haven't, you know, that don't have accounts yet. But you can find most of that on a Google search. I mean, I don't use Bing too much, but I know it comes up on Google.
Okay, just a question here was, could an LLC open a Roth, a self-directed Roth? And that's.
Could an LLC open up a Roth? No, an IRA is an individual account. Now, if you had an LLC and you had a SEP or a simple IRA, you can open up a SEP IRA. You can make contributions to it, and then 5 seconds later convert it to a Roth. So I mean, if somebody wanted to, put up to $50,000 into a Roth, we can show them how to do it if they've got a SEP or a simple or a 401k, and they can make that contribution to that. So, don't think you're just limited to the $5,000 to the Roth. You can convert a tax-deferred account anytime. So let's say at the end of the year, your SEP, right, your business put $50,000 into your SEP IRA for you. You can convert that to a Roth.
Okay, that's all of them for right now. Thank you.
No problem.
Ryan, did you get, actually, B had a question. Does your company charge a fee to set up the self-directed IRA?
Yep, when you fill out your application, it's $50 to open up your account.
Gotcha.
And that's all you're going to pay. And that's to get the rollover to it as well, the transfer of the funds. We'll go and do that from Vanguard or Fidelity or whoever you have your account with.
Gotcha. Ryan, one more question I think just came in. Will the IRA function like an LLC then?
Will the IRA function like an LLC? It's an entity.
Maybe the question
no,
is,
it's not going to function like an LLC. It's going to function like a trust. An IRA is considered a trust under the United States government. You can have as many IRAs as you want. I mean, there's a lot of attorneys out there that each piece of property you buy, they'll put into a separate IRA to keep the, $50 a piece. It's cheap, and they've got a wall between the two, and it's good separation. When you talk about an LLC, is he talking about asset protection benefits from that? And yes, it does have some different asset protection benefits, but I can't really comment on that because there's some people that think I'm answering legal questions for that, and I got to be very careful about what I tell you on that. But check with your lawyer, and if you're still having questions with it, set up a conference call at the office, and either one of my staff or I'll get on with the attorney, and we'll give him the proper case law that he needs to look at and setting up. Now, we have seen people, and it's called a checkbook or LLC IRA, and that's based on the Swanson case. But again, I don't want to get into all those details. Maybe we can touch on that in Harrisburg on the 17th of November.
Definitely. Ryan, was there, I saw one more guy.
Question was just, what is the, what is the annual fee for CAMA to manage the self-directed?
Again, if you don't have an account in there, I mean, if you don't have anything, we don't charge anything. But let's say you bought a house with PA deals for $100,000 or $200,000. We have two ways of charging for that. One is based on the asset, which each asset that you have, we charge $275 a year. So if you bought a $200,000 house from PA Deals and that was your only asset, you'd pay $275. If you bought two houses, one for $100,000 and one for $200,000, you'd pay $275 for each one of those, so you'd be paying $550 a year. If you gave a note out for $15,000, you'd be paying an annual fee of $150 for the year. So your annual fee is going to, it depends exactly what you do, but all our fees are on one sheet. You can read those, and they're on our website, linked in with our application, and it's pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions, call in, give us the deal, but fees are not really a discriminator. People ask me, I say sometimes we're a little bit more, sometimes we're a little bit less. The majority of people like the way that we do fees. It was set up by investors, for investors. We don't subsidize, we try not to subsidize anybody or have other clients subsidize people. So we actually try to have people pay for what they use.
Okay. Another question was, once you have a property purchased and set up in the account in your IRA, who's going to take care of ongoing tax bills or hazard insurance or those annual bills that would come along, or even monthly bills?
That's a great question. There's two ways to do that. One is if you have a property manager, like someone that has a 100-unit apartment building, they generally will have a property management company that comes in and does it, and basically the IRA will have a contract with the property management company that does all of that and basically sends the profits back to the IRA. The other way, if someone had a single-family home that they were going to manage themselves, basically the tenants would send the rent into CAMA plan, and the owner would go online and look and see if the rents came in, and then they would give us an authorization letter to pay the taxes or pay the insurance or pay the lawn man or whatever else came up. Or every time an invoice came in, they would send it in, fax it into us with an authorization to pay it, and we'd pay it from our account. And we charge a check charge for $10 to do that.
And then must the IRA pay those payments, or can the individual pay them?
The IRA has to pay them, right? Everything has to come out of the IRA. You want to consider the IRA as your senile uncle, right? You're making all the decisions for him, but his money's separate from yours. So if the IRA owns the property, the IRA has to pay for it. All the money goes into the IRA, and all the repairs and things come out of the IRA. You can't pay for it.
And for the most part, because I do have experience with this, for the most part, you're paying, essentially you're buying a piece of property cash. So you're not going to have a monthly mortgage payment. Your annual tax bill is once a year. Your insurance is once a year. Typically, there's not, 3, 4, 5 bills a month associated with single-family houses. So there's very minimal checks that would be being written. And here again, if there was even a check per month that needed written, then that's something that would be handled directly through CAMA. CAMA would pay for it, and it would be done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple and it's easy. I mean, we have people that ask us to do their, do the management we do for their IRAs, for their non-IRA properties. We don't do that, by the way.
Here's a question that just came in. If two individuals each have separate IRAs, can those two IRAs purchase a property together?
You can buy, right. Two individuals can buy a property as tenants in common.
Both be funded with their IRAs.
With their IRAs. Let's say, let's say, two listeners are out there. They don't have enough money for the IRA for each to buy the property, and they don't want to go to one of the non-recourse lenders, so they choose to buy the property, and each of them put $50,000, or one puts in $60,000, the other puts in $40,000. Basically, the title on the deed's going to read, and on all the insurance policies, CAMA plan for the benefit of Joe Buyer, 60% undivided interest, and Bill Buyer, 40% undivided interest. And then everything's going to get split 60-40 based on that percentage, the profits, the expenses, everything going forward.
Okay.
And that's applicable, Carl, even for husband and wife, or people who are not family members, just business partners.
Yep, as long as they're tenants in common, they're buying from a third party, and they do it in the beginning.
Cool, cool. Is that all the questions, Ryan?
That is for right now. Yep.
Okay, okay. So here's
Right.
some.
And then the other one that I see, the other one I see is, do we charge for rent coming in? And the answer is no, we do not. When your rent comes in, it goes into your account, and you'll be able to see that get put in your asset category. Your cash increases, and the asset is seen as collecting rent for that amount of month. If the rent doesn't
Carl,
come in, then call the guy up and ask him why he didn't pay. We don't do that. Somebody else does.
If somebody bought a house,
about this, since somebody asked about the values on it. If you have $90,000 and you purchase just 10 acres of land, we have one is based on the value, so you'd have $90,000 times 0.0055, which is $495, or you have one asset at $275. Which one would you pick, Zach?
I don't think there's a decision to be made there.
Right, so you pick the 275, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, you can switch between these, right? We give you the choice for this. There's not many other companies that do this, but we give you the choice between which one, because let's say you sold 5 acres, you got one loan, and you got appliances, right? You got $90,000. Now you're at $495, where the 3 assets would cost you $825. So you say, hey, I'm switching to the value-based. The same thing, right? And I always ask people, I say, you think it's fair for me to make money if you're making money? And almost everybody says, well, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Well, the answer to that is, I'm doing the same thing for you whether you're making money or you're not making money. I'm not giving you advice on your investment, so you don't have to pay me for that. So this next example is somebody has $1 million and they bought $1 million horse farm. There, right? If at 0.03 is $3,000, but our maximum fee is $1,850. But in this case, you'd pick the asset at $275. Right? Because it really doesn't cost us any more to do $1 million asset than it does to do the $90,000 10 acres of land, right, for us to track it. And a lot of people find that very encouraging, and they like that part of our fee sheet. And then again, if somebody has a million houses or $1 million, but they buy 10 things, then again they're going to be at the $1,850 max versus the other one, which is the value-based. So we're there. Now, do we have some other fees? Yeah, if you FedEx it or you wire it or we cut a check, there's some fees associated with that. When you buy a piece of property, there's a $150 closing fee that's associated with it. If you're doing anything else, it's $95 to go through the closing and that part of it. And that's the one-time fee. So the fees are inconsequential to the money that you're going to make versus having it in the taxes. All right. These are some frequently asked questions that we get, so just to save a little time. How is the asset vested or titled? We talked about that. It's going to say CAMA for the benefit of Susan Smith's IRA with her account number. If she has several account numbers based on the properties that she's going to do, then we'll do that. When the money's sitting here and it's not in a piece of property, it's in an FDIC-insured bank, is there a minimum to open up an account? Yeah, it's $3,000, but again, it's more on who's ever opening. What are you going to do with that $3,000? If you can invest it and pay the fees and make a profit, then I'd say do it. If it's not going to make you a profit, you know, with paying the fees, then that might be too little for that. What's the timeline to open and fund an IRA? We can open the account, you know, within 48 hours. How fast the money comes from Fidelity, Vanguard, Merrill Lynch, we tell people plan on 2 to 6 weeks. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's longer, but that's where the majority falls into it, right? What's the timeline to make your first investment? Once your forms are received and checked for accuracy and you have the money in there, it's 48 hours from the clearance of your money, or no, 48 hours once the account is open at that point in time, when you put the paperwork in, we'll have your deal out in 48 hours. What do I do next? Again, attend some additional presentations or webinars, read some books on the subject. We talked about that. And when you feel ready, open up your account, talk to any CAMA representatives with any questions that you have. Again, I know you're going to know that you're going to feel that some of this stuff you can't believe is true and that I misspoke. That's not the case. We even have a slide that you can give to your financial advisors that'll tell them exactly where to go and look for everything that we've talked about today.
Well, I think that was awesome, Carl. Is that the last slide?
Check it and see. I think we got one more for
Yep.
Here's the slide right here that tells you everything we talked about today. Prohibited transactions. If you do borrow money, unrelated business income tax, publication 590 and 560 talks about the different IRAs, the ESAs, and publication 970. And then we have private letter rulings and court cases. Let me see what else we've got there. We're running out of time.
I'll leave that on for, I know there's a few guys on the line that are probably writing these publication numbers down. So I'll leave that up for a few minutes. For everyone on the call, guys, I want to thank you very much for coming, but I do want to let you know that we haven't announced this yet. I was waiting till this evening to do so. Carl and his team are going to be coming to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on November 17th from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. And PA Deals is hosting a free seminar, a free event, if you will, at the Blue Ridge Country Club on November 17th from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. And the entire topic of the day is going to be how to invest in real estate using your IRA or 401k plan. So you've gotten some good information tonight, but if you're interested in learning more, meeting Carl, meeting some of his staff members, and getting your questions answered face-to-face, then I strongly recommend you attend this event. It's totally free to PA Deals clients. So if you're a client of ours or on the webinar tonight, there's no cost whatsoever. All you need to do is contact me via either email or phone and reserve your seat. We have seating arrangements scheduled for secured for about 50 attendees. Once we are filled, we will be filled, and I believe we will sell the event out. So if you want to attend, please just shoot me an email, Zach@padeals.com. That is Z-A-C-K @padeals.com, and I will send you back all of the registration information. Or you can call me to reserve your seat at 717-901-7763. That is 717-901-7763, extension 302. And just give me a call, leave me a message, and I'll make sure we reserve a seat for you. And I will also send you all of the details as well. Again, it's November 17th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Blue Ridge Country Club. Carl and his team will be there, and the topic of discussion will be self-directed IRAs and 401k. So, Carl, did you have anything to add to that?
If you could, put up the next slide. We'll give people copies of this slide if they write us an email us at either info@CAMAPlan, or you can catch Ryan, either call him up or email him, and we'll send you a list of any of the slides you request. Most of this information's on the website, but we'll do that as well if that makes it easier for your listeners.
Yeah, guys, I tell you, CAMAPlan.com website is filled with information. They've got webinars up there. They've got downloads, PDFs. There's tons and tons of information there. So feel free to browse their site and get any questions that you may have either answered there. Or like I said, you can call them directly, and they'll answer your questions, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at least. So,
Zach, are you going to put this up on your website so people can come back to it and have their advisors look at it and see if so that they can feel comfortable about it and see this recorded copy, or
We did record it this evening, so we will be posting a permanent copy of this presentation at one of our website URLs in the coming days, and I will send all attendees as well as our entire list of subscribers that link probably next Monday or Tuesday. So that will be available for review as well. That was a good point. And I want to thank everyone for coming. Carl, you were awesome. Great information. Hopefully we've been able to enlighten everyone on the call this evening as to how it is possible to control your retirement plan and not be at the mercy of the good old risky stock market.
I'm with you, and again, thank you very much for inviting us. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you out in Harrisburg in a few weeks.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ryan, and thank you for everyone in attendance. It's been a pleasure to provide you with this information, and we can be reached at padeals.com, and you can check Carl's information out at camaplan.com. Thank you guys very much. Carl, thank you very much. You were great.
Great. Thanks, Zach.
Take care.